Thank you, everyone, and thank you, DuPont. I love to talk about diversity, and it's important and should be important to you because our culture has changed. You've probably all heard the old expression that America is a melting pot. And what that meant was that wherever you were from, whoever you were, you came to the United States, we sort of threw you into one pot and sort of simmered away all of your differences, and we all came out Americanized. The more modern expression now, though, is that America is no longer a melting pot, but in fact a salad bowl. And the reason it's called a salad bowl because if you look at the actual elements of a salad, none of the pieces of the salad look like anything else. The carrot doesn't look like the radish doesn't look like the cucumber doesn't look like the tomato. You can see every element of the salad for what it really is. And most of us would agree that a salad that has all of these different things is a better salad. What does diversity look like, though? When I talk about diversity, a lot of people tend to think racial and ethnic diversity, and that's important, and I think we're going to talk about that too. But it's more than that. I think diversity comes in many forms. This is just my list, but let's take a look at it. Gender. Men are different from women, and all kidding aside, it really is true. We operate totally differently. What about religious differences? That's probably never been quite as much in the media as it is right now. Age and generational differences. The boomers are very different from the matures, who are different from Gen X or Gen Y. The gay and lesbian market. Physical abilities. Those who have physical challenges are going to face certain things that people who don't have physical challenges don't face. What about rural versus metro? Someone who lives in a rural area is going to be very different than someone who lives in Manhattan. And political beliefs. What about even military versus civilian? Those are two totally different worlds. And of course, racial, white, African American, Asian, and Native American, but also ethnic and linguistic differences. For example, Hispanic is not a race, it's an ethnicity, or Asian Indian. Nativity. I think someone who's foreign born is going to look at the United States with a very different lens than someone who's US born. Life stage. A new mom or a new dad is going to be in a very different place emotionally, financially, priority-wise than someone who's a retiree, someone who's a college student, or someone who's an empty nester. Lifestyle and affluence. The working poor are very different from the middle class, who are different from the wealthy. And what about core values? Someone who's a hardcore environmentalist or a vegan or a vegetarian or someone who homeschools their child is going to be different than someone who doesn't homeschool their child. Those are core values that can reflect the way that you do business. And there's even diversity within diversity. This is a chart of the U.S.-Asian composition. And if you look at this chart, you can see that, there's not even a common language among these different groups, much less alone common foods or traditions or holidays, and yet we lump them into all one group, call it Asian. Same thing with Hispanic. With Hispanic, at least there's a common language, that being Spanish. But again, someone who's Cuban is going to have different foods, different holidays, different traditions than someone who's Venezuelan or someone who's Mexican. And in the United States right now, 1 in 9 people are foreign born. 1 in 9. Also, for the first time ever, the composition of the workforce in the U.S. is equal between men and women. That's never happened before. There have always been more men in the U.S. workforce than women up until last year. I believe that understanding someone who's different from you, whether it's a coworker inside your shop or whether it's your customer base, is less about focusing on their race or the shape of their eyes, the color of their skin, and more about the experiences that define them and make them them. That's what really defines all of us.